Okay, now it started recording. Let me proceed. I don't want to repeat whatever I mentioned about whatever summary of whatever we did yesterday. And let me directly proceed to this presentation. Please note that yesterday we noted these two equations for beams of uniform depth and beams having varying depth. Nominal shear stress. Nominal shear stress. So that is what we'll be using for design purpose. So if I told you yesterday, you go back to your mechanics of materials and revise the shear stress distribution and also bending stress distribution. I don't know whether you have done it or not, but anyway, I need to go through them in today's class. Okay. So the point I want to emphasize is this is nominal shear stress, or as Professor Amlan mentioned, you can say this is like average shear stress. Actual shear stress across the cross section is not going to be uniform. It's going to have certain variation. And I wanted you to go and look at all those things. So that is the idea of asking you to revise your concepts. Okay. Anyway, let me proceed. So this is a beam. The first figure is showing a beam and it is subjected to some loads, and these are the two supports. This is one support, this is another support, shown like with a point load or reaction acting at the centroid of the support. Okay, passing through the center of the support. So these are the two supports and these are the loads. So now if you take sections like this A and B, and if you draw the free body diagram showing all the internal forces, this is how it looks. This is how it looks. And if you take the element here and if you draw the free body diagram, this is what it is going to be. Moment M acting on this side. If this length of this element is dx, small infinitesimal element, and moment on this side is going to have some difference, increment or decrement. So M plus dm. And shear is V on this side and shear is going to be V on this side. Any questions on this? So this is what is the idea of isolating a small element and then showing all the forces acting on that element. What is the idea of this? We can write the equilibrium equations and get the relation between bending moment and shear force. Okay. So what I suggest is quickly take a note of this figure. At least this third figure, you please quickly take a note of this. This is nothing but, as the caption is mentioning, internal forces on portion between sections A and BB. Please take a note of this. Okay. So let me go and proceed further. So now here a portion of beam is shown. In the previous figure, you can see that the details are not given, and here this is like the support part of the support. Reaction is acting at the center of that, and the load here. Okay, and this is like a distribution plate for distributing the load smoothly to the beam. Anyway, the details we don't need to go, and this is the load applied. And this is a support, reaction at this support. So now this is only a part of the beam, okay? Part of the beam. So if a beam is given and all the support conditions are given, loads are given, you should be able to find what is the shear force at any point along the length of the beam and bending moment at any point along the length of the beam. Once you get shear force and bending moment, you can estimate shear stress at any point in the beam, and as well as bending stress at any point along the beam. Okay, so here two elements are taken, and please note this is a homogeneous we are not before we go for a composite section like reinforced concrete beam. Here it's a homogeneous section. You can imagine this to be only concrete, a part of concrete beam. Okay, this beam is made of concrete, homogeneous material, single material, and it's uncracked. It's uncracked. Here you can read the caption: normal, shear, and principal stresses in a homogeneous uncracked beam. So now the point is, once you know the shear force bending moment at any point along the length of the beam, along the depth of the beam, if you select a section, along the depth of that section, you can estimate what is the shear stress, what is the bending stress, or it's also called normal stress. Okay, you can estimate bending stress as well as shear stress. How the shear stress, how we are going to calculate shear stress? That is what I ask you to go and revise your mechanics of materials background. I don't know whether you have done it or not. So if you refer any standard mechanics of materials books, and this is how shear stress is going to be calculated. V is the shear force, and along the depth of the beam, depending on the location where you want shear stress, above that point, whatever is area is there, Q is first moment about the centroidal axis of the part of cross-sectional area lying farther from the centroidal axis than the point where shear stress are being calculated. So once you know the level at which you want to calculate the shear stress, whatever portion of area above that point is there, moment of that, Q. So all these details you must have studied as a part of your mechanics of materials. You please, if these concepts are not clear to you, you go back to your mechanics of materials book and then look at it, and look at some examples. Okay, then you will get a better understanding about all this. So V is the shear force that you get from your structural analysis. Q is going to be like it's going to be a function of your geometric dimensions. I is going to be your moment of inertia of cross section. B is the width of the section. So if you calculate shear stress along the depth of the beam, if you calculate shear stress once you know shear force at a point along the length of the beam, let's say this is the section, and along this section I know at this point along the length of the beam I know what is shear force. Now I am interested in how the shear stress is going to be varying across the depth of the section. So shear stress, whatever formula I showed you, if you calculate at various points along the depth of the beam, shear stress distribution is going to be like this, parabolic. For a rectangular section, shear stress distribution is going to be parabolic. You keep a note of it, okay? And what about bending stress or normal stress? Normal stress is going to have triangular distribution, similar to whatever stress distribution that we used or assumed when we are solving using working stress method. Okay, so normal stress is going to be having a triangular kind of distribution. Okay, and once you know the neutral axis, this is a homogeneous section. If the section is the cross section is rectangular, then the neutral axis is going to pass through the centroid of various cross sections, or it's going to be at the mid depth. Neutral axis is going to be at mid depth because this is homogeneous section. So above the Above the neutral axis, your normal stress is going to be positive. Below the neutral axis, it's going to be negative. Or above the neutral axis, it's going to be compressive. Below the neutral axis, it's going to be tensile for this kind of load and for this kind of reaction. Is there any question on this? So you got an idea about shear stress. You got an idea about normal stress at various points along the depth of the beam. So here two small elements are shown. Here two small elements are shown. Taken at one element is taken above, such a way one element is taken above the neutral axis, another element is taken below the neutral axis, assuming the neutral axis to coincide with the mid depth of the section, because this is homogeneous uncracked beam. Okay. And now for element 1, what is the shear stress acting? That is what is depicted here. And what is the normal stress that is acting? Okay, you can see normal stress is shown towards the element. That means it's compressive. And here normal stress is acting away from the element. It's tensile. So you got the shear stress, you got the normal stress. And if you know these two, shear stress and normal stress, you should be able to calculate using Mohr circle. You should be able to calculate what are the principal stresses and principal directions. Okay, you need to revise all those. If you have forgotten all that, you need to revise all those things. Anyway, I will show you equation. So let me go to that. Here, principal stresses. Principal stresses are given by this equation. F divided by 2 plus or minus square root of F divided by 2 square plus Q square. Q is nothing but your shear stress. In the previous slide, small v is used in that place, or you can replace this with small v to be consistent. Okay, because this is taken from different source. Please note that I made these slides by taking important these ideas from different sources. That's why this notation difference is there. Okay, so please take a note of this equation. And plus or minus sign is there. Plus is major principal stress, minus is minor principal stress. Take a note of this equation. And also principal directions, because these principal stresses are going to act on two planes. Major principal stress, minor principal stress, they are going to act on two planes. And the orientation of those planes are given, the angle is given by this relation, which is going to be function of your normal stress and shear stress. Shear stress is in the numerator, normal stress is in the denominator. Please take a note of this equation. To understand the orientation of cracks, when you do real experiment, once you come back to the campus, you may be doing some experiments in the structural engineering lab for under reinforced concrete section and over reinforced concrete beam. Okay, and it's to understand or to correlate how the crack orientation pattern with respect to the theoretical concepts. These two equations are important. Okay, and here it is shown. Here this figure is also shown. This is here it is a reinforced concrete beam with reinforcement on the tension side. It is shown. You take a note of this figure also. Whatever I just explained to you, for homogeneous uncracked beam, like you calculate shear stress, normal stress at various locations along the depth of the beam, taken a section, and then once you get normal stress and shear stress, making use of these equations at any point along the depth of the beam, you should be able to find what are the principal stresses and what are the principal directions. Okay, and an element here. An element is taken, an element is shown here, and for the on that element, what are the forces that are acting? Free body diagram is shown, and this is you can see here. This is neutral axis. This element is below the neutral axis, so normal stress is going to be tensile in nature, and these are the shear stresses. Okay, and what are these principal? Just now we noted equation for principal stresses. So what are these principal stresses? How they are going to act, and what is this theta? What is the meaning of it? That is all shown in the figure. This figure gives you an idea about it. Theta is nothing but this inclination of this diagonal, okay, or this orientation of this plane with respect to the horizontal, that is your theta, and another plane is going to be perpendicular to this. Another plane is going to be perpendicular to this, because here tan 2 theta is equal to some quantity is there. 2 theta is going to have two values. 2 theta is going to have two values separated out by 180 degrees. So these two planes are 2 theta is like separated out by 180 degrees. Theta is equal to 90 degrees. Okay, the other plane is going to be perpendicular to this plane. And one of the principal stress is going to be major principal stress, another is going to be minor principal stress. Please note that on the plane, this is the diagonal. On this plane, these major principal values are shown here. Major principal stress values are shown, and these two values, okay, this principal stress, once it exceeds tensile strength of the material, crack is going to be developed along this direction. So that is what is shown here. Crack is going to be developed along this direction. So once you calculate principal stresses from the normal stresses and shear stresses at any point along the beam, and then you can compare the principal stress, major principal stress value with the tensile strength of concrete. Once it exceeds, a crack is going to be formed such a way that this is the direction of the principal stress, and crack is going to be formed perpendicular to that. Okay, this is the principal major principal stress direction. Crack is going to be formed perpendicular to that. So with this kind of information, you should be able to calculate at various locations along the length of the beam or along the cross section, what are the principal stresses and how the crack orientation is going to be at various locations. How the crack is going to be at various locations. And if you connect all those points, then you get an idea about trajectory of the cracks. You get the trajectory of the cracks for different cracks. Okay? And before I proceed, let me let's look at this equation more closely. Okay? Tan theta is equal to minus 2q divided by f. Suppose if you take a simply supported beam, subjected to some loading, okay, shear force, or if you take simply supported beam subjected to uniformly distributed load. Recording is going on? Okay. Simply supported beam subjected to uniformly distributed load. Can you just quickly try to draw what is how the shear stress or shear force diagram is going to be, how the bending moment diagram is going to be for simply supported beam subjected to uniformly distributed load. Bending moment is going to be maximum at the mid span and bending moment is going to be 0 at the supports for simply supported beam subjected to uniformly distributed load. And what about shear force? Shear force is going to be maximum at the supports, and it's going to be 0 at the midspan. And shear force diagram is going to have triangular variation, or it's going to be linear in variation. And bending moment diagram is going to have parabolic variation, okay, with maximum value at the midspan. So the key points is, for simply supported beam subjected to uniformly distributed load, shear force is going to be maximum at the supports, and bending moment is going to be 0 at the supports. Shear force is going to be 0 at the midspan. Bending moment is going to be maximum at the midspan. So now, with that information, I want you to look at this equation. If bending moment is 0 at the support, if bending moment is 0 at the support, bending moment is 0 at the support, what is going to be bending stress or normal stress? If bending moment is 0, normal stress is going to be 0. F is going to be 0. If F is equal to 0, what is this? Tan 2 theta is equal to infinity. If tan 2 theta is equal to infinity, what is theta? You tell me. One of you need to tell me quickly. You all came through JEE exam. If tan 2 theta is equal to infinity, what is theta? Huh? None of you are responding. What is the value?
45 degree.
What? Theta is equal to 45 degree?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so theta is equal to 45 degrees. If theta is equal to 45 degrees, this angle is also going to be 45 degrees. Okay, this dashed line is also going to be 45 degrees. So let me once again go back and summarize what we have done. The location where I told you to do this exercise is at this support. At this support, bending moment is 0 for simply supported beam subjected to uniformly distributed load. Bending moment is 0 at the support. So F is 0. So at the support, if at all crack is going to be formed, at the support, if at all crack is going to be formed, I'm interested in what is going to be its inclination with respect to the horizontal, or what is its orientation going to be, how the crack is going to be formed. If at all crack is going to be formed at the support, in what direction it's going to be formed. So just now somebody told it's 45 degrees. Is it clear? So theoretically, crack is going to be formed at this support at an angle 45 degrees. In reality also, it's going to be close to 45 degrees. Is it clear? And what about at the midspan? At the midspan, what is bending moment? Is maximum, and shear force is 0. If shear force is 0, Q is 0. So tan 2 theta is equal to 0. Tan 2 theta is equal to 0. What is theta? You tell me.
Zero only.
0. And so this angle is going to be 0. This angle theta is going to be 0. And a plane which is perpendicular to this 0 plane is going to be at 90 degrees. So this dashed line If theta is equal to 0, it's going to be a vertical. Or in other words, at the midspan, the crack orientation or crack, if at all crack is going to form, it's going to be forming almost perpendicular to the length of the beam. Please note these points are very, very important. When you visit your apartment building or something like that, you please see if there are some hairline cracks or something like that, you see the orientation of those cracks and try to see whether you can give explanation based on these concepts, okay? And please note that these are for homogeneous sections. These equations are for homogeneous sections, but it doesn't matter. We can roughly get an idea about the orientation of the cracks. Now, is it clear? What is the use of these principal stresses and principal directions, and how principal stresses are calculated from normal stress, shear stress, okay? And what this theta, what actually physically it infers, all that is what we discussed just now, okay? Anyway, let me go further. So whatever I just told you, whatever I just explained you, if you do that exercise for entire beam, you can draw the trajectories like this. You can draw trajectories like this. And you can see at the midspan, this is like half of the beam. It's at the midspan, this crack is going to be, just now we noted, crack is going to be please note that this is homogeneous uncracked beam. So below the neutral axis is going to be in tension, above the neutral axis is going to be compression. So at the point where it is initiating and beyond that for a while, it's going to be perpendicular to the length of the beam. And as you come near to the supports, the orientation is almost going to be at 45 degrees. Okay? So this actually, it's you can say, as you come to the support, it's going to be forming something like this. You can see here, this is the real tested beam. How the crack orientation at the midspan, how the cracks are there, and at the near to the supports, how the cracks are there. You can see here photograph of half of a crack reinforced concrete beam. Is it clear? So now let's go further, and we noted in our IS 456 under limit state of collapse under shear, whatever equations that are given, they are for nominal shear stress. So what is this nominal shear stress? And whatever shear stress just now we noted is this one. This actually gives you the actual shear stress distribution along the depth of the beam. With this, you find a different location, what is the shear stress, and then plot it. It's going to have this kind of parabolic variation for rectangular section, for a rectangular section. Okay? So now, what is this nominal shear stress? You please take a note of these figures. This is a cracked beam, reinforced on the tension side. And whatever we just now noted about the orientation of cracks, some cracks are shown here. Okay, at the midspan, the crack, the initiated crack is almost going to be perpendicular to the length of the beam. As you come near to the supports, it's going to be closely matching with 45 degrees inclination. Okay, so this is the reinforcement, and this is a cracked beam. So below the neutral axis, whatever concrete is there, that is all cracked, assumed to be cracked or ineffective. And steel is going to take the tension. Okay, so tension on the steel element. Steel element tension is shown here, or a small element is taken on the bottom part, that on that element, what are the forces that are acting? They are shown here. T on this side, this length of this element is dx. So T plus dt. On the top, you have shear stress. And this element, this whatever hatched portion is that element is magnified, and all the forces that are acting on that element are shown. You please take a note of this element. Please note that this element is important for us to understand how that equation, which is given in the code book, how it is obtained. Okay, here concrete below the neutral axis, you can assume it to be at this level. Concrete above the neutral axis is effective. Concrete below the neutral axis is cracked and it is ineffective. And compressive force, please note that whatever portion of the beam that is there above the neutral axis, that is it's going to be a compression. So C is used to denote compression on this face, and C plus delta C. C plus delta C, and delta X is the length of this differential element. Okay, and concrete below the neutral axis is not going to take any load. It's not going to take any load. And steel, in the steel bar, tension is shown as T on this side, T plus delta T on this side. And whatever you studied for reinforced beams on the tension side, lever arm distance. Lever arm distance is shown. The lever arm distance is nothing but the distance from centroid of the compression to the centroid of the tension. And in addition, other forces are shown, internal forces. M is the moment on this side, V is the shear force. V is the shear. Please note that shear force on this face and on this face is going to be same. Otherwise, it's not going to be in equilibrium. So M is the moment on this side, M plus delta M is on this side. Take a note of this figure. Take a note of this figure. And please note that if it is uncracked section, if it is uncracked, and if it is homogeneous section, if it is uncracked and homogeneous section, how the shear stress distribution is going to be? Just now you noted it's going to be parabolic in variation. It's going to be zero. It's going to be zero on the top face. It's going to be zero here. It's going to be zero here, and it's going to be maximum at the neutral axis for uncracked homogeneous section. And here shear stress distribution for this kind of cracked beam, which is not homogeneous, in the sense in the tension side you have reinforcement. For that kind of beam, shear stress distribution is going to look like this. And please note that how this is obtained. Up to the neutral axis, it's going to be similar to homogeneous section. Up to the neutral axis is going to be similar to homogeneous section. It's going to have parabolic variation. Below the neutral axis, concrete is not going to the purpose of this concrete below the neutral axis, which is cracked. The purpose what it serves is whatever shear stress that is there at this level, at the level of the neutral axis, it's going to take that shear and then transfer it to the reinforcement. So shear stress is going to be constant below the neutral axis till the level of the reinforcement. So you please take a note of this. So that is going to be the difference between the shear stress distribution for homogeneous uncracked section and this cracked section, reinforced cracked section. Is it clear? Above the neutral axis, it's going to be similar to homogeneous uncracked section. It's going to have parabolic variation, maximum value reaching at the neutral axis. Below the neutral axis, concrete just transfers whatever whatever shear stress that is there at the level of neutral axis to the tension state. So it's going to be like this. Okay, I hope you have taken note of this figure. So using this figure, we can write some equations. Okay, so let's see those equations. First equation is tension T is equal to M divided by JD. Moment divided by lever arm is going to give you tension. So that concept you already noted earlier. So T here, how it is related to M? T is equal to M divided by JD. T plus delta T is equal to M plus delta M divided by JD. Those are the two relations. Okay. And subtract the first equation from second equation. You get this equation, differential equation. Delta T is equal to delta M divided by JD. Okay. Any questions? So now let's go back to this one. You can see here M is there on this side, moment. M plus dm, delta M is there on this side. V is the shear acting. You take moment about one of the points. M plus V times delta X. M plus V times delta X is equal to M plus delta M. Okay. M, please make a note, M plus M, take a moment about this point. M moment plus V times shear force times length of this element dx or delta x, V times delta x. You are taking moment about this point, so the moment of this shear force is not going to come into picture because the shear force is acting along this at the point through the point where you are taking the moment. So it should be equal to M plus V times delta x should be equal to M plus delta M. So rearrange that equation, cancel M on both sides. You are going to get this. Delta M is equal to V times delta X. And you have a relation, delta T is equal to delta M divided by JD. You substitute this relation in this, you are going to get this one. You are going to get this one. Okay. And now this V shear, this shear stress V is given by this. Please note that this is a shear flow. This is a shear flow, this figure, and it is acting on this a small element on the bottom portion is shown. So write the equilibrium equation for this. T plus the shear flow. The shear flow is going to be if shear stress is denoted with small v. Shear stress is denoted with small v, and this length of this element is delta x. Length of this element is delta x. And let's say width of this element is going to be same as width of the beam. Let's denote that with BW. Okay. So if you write the equilibrium equation for this, T plus, you please make a note, T plus small v times delta x multiplied by BW is equal to T plus delta T. T plus V times delta x multiplied by BW is equal to T plus delta T. You rearrange it, you are going to get this relation. You are going to get this relation. And in this relation, you substitute delta T from here. You substitute delta T from here, then shear stress you will get in terms of shear force divided by BW times JD, leave around distance. Leave around distance JD. Okay. So this is actually, this is the shear stress. This is like average shear stress. This is going to be like average shear stress. And this shear stress is what actually we need to consider. This shear stress is what we need to consider for our design. But for what is J? J is leave around factor. Okay. J is going to depend on your K value. Okay. K value is neutral axis depth factor. Neutral axis depth factor, if you go back for various grades of concretes, various grades of steel, neutral axis depth factor, you try to calculate, or it's already given in SP16. SP16 neutral axis depth factor K is given, and from that you calculate leave around factor. And for different grades of concrete, different grades of steel, leave around factor J is going to be closely, approximately, it's going to be 0.9. Approximately, it's going to be 0.9. So V is equal to small v is equal to capital V, shear force divided by width of the beam multiplied by leave around. Instead of doing all this exercise, what code is saying is, instead of forget about JD, you take it as D. So this is what is given in your IS code. IS 456, it's giving this equation. Okay, small v is equal to capital V divided by BD. Instead of BW, it's written BD, but B with an understanding, small b is equal to, for a flanged section, it's going to be equal to width of the web portion. Any questions? So this is your nominal shear stress. So it's all coming from here. It's all coming from here. And also you need to keep a note of this the stress distribution for a cracked section. Okay. In tomorrow's class, we will go further and try to, and whatever I explained in today's class, okay, along the length of the beam, different regions are shown depending on the ratio of normal stress to the shear stress. So let me complete this at least, okay. So if you take a simply supported beam, the entire beam can be divided into 3 regions. The region where F is dominating. F means bending stress is dominating. So that's why you can see cracks are almost originating perpendicular to the length of the beam. And region 2, you have combination of bending stress as well as shear stress. So slightly the cracks are going to be deviating from this 90 degrees angle. Region of, you can read here, region 1 is flexural cracks, because here shear stress is 0 in the middle, almost 0. Exactly at the midpoint it's going to be 0, and slightly away from that it's going to be the value, or the bending stress value is going to be dominating over shear stress value. Okay, so region 1 and in region 2, both are going to have some equal contribution. So that's why flexural shear cracks. And region 3 is mostly bending moment is going to be 0 as you come closer to the support. Shear is going to dominate. So you have this kind of cracks at 90 degrees. So region 3, you may be noticing web shear cracks or diagonal tension cracks. Okay, these are the different regions in a beam, cracks in different regions in a beam. The explanation or the mathematical reasoning or background for this, you can go back to your principal stresses and principal directions, and based on that you can explain. And here some elements are also shown. This is one element close to the support or at the support, here at the support and at the midspan. And we'll proceed further in tomorrow's class, okay? And also we'll see how those equations that are given in page 73 of IS 456, we'll try to understand in tomorrow's class. This one, 72 or 73. Any questions? Professor Amlan, you want to add something?
This crack pattern is important because this helps in diagnostics. In case if you see any failure of a beam, from the crack pattern you can understand what was the reason, whether it was flexure, whether it was shear. In your lab, you will be asked to plot the crack pattern for the beam that will be testing. Hence, please stay familiar with the crack pattern that forms in a uniformly distributed beam, which is simply supported. Okay.
Okay, no questions. Anyway, if
Sir,
you have any, tell me.
Sir, in the shear stress distribution diagram of a cracked section, sir, why are we plotting the shear stress even for the cracked concrete, sir? Sir, why don't we simply plot the shear stress at the level of tension steel? That's it, like we do in bending case.
No, it's not. This concrete is not taking any. It's just that stress, whatever it is given. Concrete, the cracked portion of concrete is given a responsibility to transfer the maximum value that is occurring at the neutral axis, transfer to the steel. So it is going to faithfully do it. So that shear stress in that portion is going to remain the whatever value of shear stress at the neutral axis. So you cannot simply avoid that concrete. So you may be thinking why concrete, if it is below the neutral axis, is ineffective. From flexure point of view, it's ineffective. But from shear point of view, it's not ineffective. It actually transfers. And also from flexure point of view, also it's not ineffective. It actually maintains that lever arm distance. If you cannot simply remove that concrete and then ignore that, okay? Because it's going to maintain that distance, lever arm distance. Anyway, think about it, okay? Yeah, thank you.